Oh, Venus Fridays, and this happens to be Friday the 13th, Venus's favorite day to be on a Friday. And if we think of Friday, Freya is the goddess that was of the Norse culture that represented Venus. So, and Friday the 13th was her extra special day. In many cultures, especially Celtic cultures, they celebrated Friday the 13th as a time to honor the goddess, to honor the divine feminine. And then, of course, when the Gregorian calendar was instituted and the whole Christian perspective was like, they really discouraged, and they made Friday the 13th unlucky. But before that, it was super lucky. So I think we need to go back to the lucky understanding, vision, and possibility of Friday the 13th. 13 is a magical number in so many ways. The moon moves an average of 13 degrees a day. There are 13 weeks between a solstice and an equinox. They're kind of cool. And in the playing card deck, there are 13 cards in each suit. There's four suits. 4 seasons times 13 weeks is 52 weeks. 4 seasons are four suits, which represent the 4 seasons in the playing cards, with 13 cards are equal 52. There's 52 cards in the playing card deck. So just in case you didn't know that. And the number 13 has been honored and celebrated by so many ancient cultures. I wrote a whole article about it, and I'll put a link in the show notes about that if you want to get more of the details. But here we are, Friday the 13th, and it's the only one in June. I mean, it's June of 2025, the only one the entire year. Some years will have two, and some years will have three. In fact, next year we'll have three, but this year there's only one. And so we get to celebrate that and be excited about that. So there's that. And then the other thing that's happening a couple of days later is Mars is squaring Uranus. Mars at 29 Leo, Uranus at 29 Taurus with the Pleiades. Mars not far from Regulus. Regulus is at 0 Virgo, and in fact, we'll be exact with Regulus on June, let me see, 17th, so a couple days later, exact with that star. So we've got the magical stars that are being activated, and Uranus, of course, is only can be with the Pleiades every 80 some years. It's been a while. Since this happened, and so we've got that going on. And the Uranian energy is about expanding our consciousness and our awareness. And so how is the sacred masculine being expanded in its awareness of what it really is? And honestly, the patriarchy has been as wounding and limiting and um, challenging to the masculine as it has been to the feminine. On the surface, it might not always look that way, but it's true. And I witness this a lot with my sons who are, not following the patriarchal path of being of their expression. And so much of that is changing. I think many of our young people are like rebelling against that. So Mars square Uranus is the perfect time to go, how can we do this in a different way? How do we disrupt this and create something new and different and have a new vision? And one of the reasons I feel like this is important is because Mars is, or actually Venus is catching up to Mars in January, 6 months later. It's catching up to Mars. They're going to be conjunct together. And so this is setting the stage for that aspect, for that conjunction. And also, this is representative of the last of Mars went retrograde in Leo back in December. And now Mars is getting ready to move into Virgo on June 17th. And so that's the completion of Mars moving through Leo for all these months. A long time. And we could say that perhaps the intent of that is to come into greater self-love. What's in the way of that Uranus square Mars? How do we get to that place of greater self-love?
I love that so much, right? Because we all have the feminine and the masculine, right? The sacred feminine, the sacred masculine within us. And it's a balancing act of how we bring them back into greater balance, harmony, union. And we're focusing on the divine feminine and increasing her energy, her power that we've been, turned away from in so many ways. But part of that is then like bringing the masculine, right? Balancing the scales, Libra, of bringing that back into balance so they're working in harmony and unity together within us, right? We're still, no matter how we identify, I would say like in my life coaching business is like we're still so overdoing. We're so programmed to just keep moving, marching, right? The shadowy side of the masculine. It's like the pendulum's so swung. So it's like with Leo and then moving into Virgo and Uranus there, how do we get our things done, take action, but do it in a way that's coming from our heart and supports our body and our health and allows our feminine to have her expression so that we're not just always overriding ourselves and our nervous system, right? Uranus is so nervous system as well. So I love that, right? Self-care, taking care of ourselves, loving ourselves. So much of this star divinity heart, Regulus heart of the lion, the Pleiades, the seven sisters. I mean, we're just seeing layering of these same types of themes and energies. So thank you for bringing that in.
So good. I love it. Yeah, and the sacred masculine, sacred feminine can accomplish so much more together than on their own. And that, that division and separation that's taken place and the dismissing of if the feminine is dismissing the masculine or the masculine is dismissing the feminine, we're missing out on half of what's possible. At least half of what's possible. Maybe there's even more than that, but I don't know. So this is so good, and it's so exciting that Mars is going through this process as if it's part of the preparation. And of course, Venus will go through Leo and then Virgo, and then and it won't catch up to Mars until they're both in Capricorn. So that's 6 months away. So they have some time to do their own thing till they meet and have the sacred marriage in the sky.
And
With the
how
sun, by
perfect.
the way, it's an underworld. And so if you think about that, I'll just plant the seed for this now. When Venus and Mars are within a degree of the sun when they meet in January of 2026, that's a new, it's like, they're with the source of light and life for our planet and the source energy. How do we source a new way of doing relationship between the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine? That's the pathway we're on between now and then.
Oh, I love that because that's my Venus and Mars signature and in a different sign in Cancer, but they're both in the underworld there together. So I hadn't even tuned into that yet. So thanks, Cayelin. I appreciate that. And what just perfect timing and opportunity and an inspiration for the world that we're living in right now because there is so much separation, like me before you, and how right? We're so much better when we're all together. It's kind of like, I mean, I have stepkids. I'm not a biological mom, but it's like you're only doing as well as your one kid is having trouble. It's the same thing in the world. So I appreciate you saying that. And so the next thing we're moving into is it's the solstice is coming and so exciting. So the sun is entering Cancer at the last video we were talking about like galactic center and now here we are at galactic edge, right? So the sun is moving into Cancer, right, on the hand of Orion, and we have this new changing of the seasons, right? The sun's shifting energy, light, our source, the new season, and it's that time to celebrate. And the solstices are so interesting because it's literally like solstice, the sun stands still and it starts to turn where it is on the horizon and starts moving back across the horizon. And I love the time of the solstice to stand still within ourselves, right? It can be the middle of this, the start of this new season, and there can be a lot going on energetically, but taking that moment to kind of land in the energy of Cancer, the nurturer, how we take care of ourselves, how we take care of our people, our clan, helping things to grow into fruition, including ourselves. And I love this as a time to like our visions, right? As we're having Venus is moving from being at the third eye chakra while she's still in Taurus during this time, but moving into the throat chakra of like our visions of where do we want to be going during this solstice season? What do we want to be manifesting, creating, focusing on? And I have a free solstice class I'm offering. So if you want, I'll put that link in the show notes as well, and you're welcome to join. And we're just going to look at our visions and what the solstice means and all of that. So join if you feel so called. And yeah, what would you like to say about the solstice?
Oh, well, because Jupiter and Mercury have just gone, like just a couple weeks prior to this, gone across that point on the galactic cross at the galactic edge. So they lit up that point, and now the sun is lighting up that point. Now you can't see the stars behind it because the sun is there. And for those of us in the northern hemisphere, the days are longer because the sun is tracking north across the sky, so it's higher across the sky. In the winter, it's low across the sky, so the days are shorter because the sun's not in the sky as long. And like you were saying, it's like this pendulum swing, that standstill of the sun. So the sun moves as far north as it possibly can move, and then it pauses there. And it literally rises in the exact same place for 3 days. And it's very near that place for 3 weeks before it starts moving back. And it brings to mind this book that was written by a man named Itzhak Bentov. I think I came across it back in the 70s, called Stalking the Wild Pendulum. And it was based on physics and different things that was happening. But basically, he said, and the sun's like a pendulum going as far north as it possibly can, coming back to as far south as it possibly can. It's just like this pendulum swinging up and down the horizon. And you can see it different times of the year where it's rising on your horizon line. So cool to track. And so then you're like, oh, this is that time of season. So I know exactly where to look where for the sun to come up at that time, if you're really familiar with where the sun comes up at the different seasons. But in Stalking the Wild Pendulum, he says when the pendulum gets to that stop point before it reverses direction, it literally is in a place they can't track. So there's the uncertainty principle that says if you know how fast something's going, you don't know where it is. If you know how fast it's going, you do know where it is. Well, if the sun is paused, you know where it is, or you don't know where it is because it's blinks out perhaps, or there's some other reality or portal or gateway that's being opened by the sun in that pause. So awesome.
Amazing. It's like that kinetic, like the potential of the energy of the pendulum. Wow, I love that. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, then with Venus going with the meeting with the moon, like right after that, we have this sense of how are we giving voice to the visions and the possibilities that are coming through, and how are we creatively expressing what that vision is. So I think the exact Venus moon is on the 21st or 22nd, depending on your time zone. So really right in that 3-day solstice window. Because for some of us, the June solstice is happening on June 20th, late in the day, and for a lot of people, it'll be June 21st. So this Venus moon conjunction is happening very, very close to this solstice, and that's pretty spectacular if you consider the magic of the solstice energy and then the magic of the Venus moon conjunction at the throat chakra. Ah, that's good.
Yeah, exactly, right? And this conjunction signifies moving into the throat chakra, like you're saying, in the Venus cycle. And it's that time to look at what are we releasing, letting go of around our throat and our voice and how we communicate and share things. And so, what blocks our voice, like making us stay like super small or really like quiet or not sharing our voice or speaking our truth, right? How do we like package and condense ourselves to be acceptable to others, society, or how we project that we think will be acceptable? This is a great time to start looking at, ooh, where are the places I am shutting down my voice? And how can I speak my truth? How can I start to reclaim and share and get rid of those places where I feel like I need to stay small, speak quietly, stay silent?
And then there's the opposite side of that is where people may over use their voice, say too much, not be conscientious about what they're saying, say things that are harmful, hurtful, painful, aren't helpful. That so there's that aspect. It's like it could be either end of that spectrum. So being able to look at that, or maybe in some situations you don't use your voice at all. In other situations, maybe you use it too much, but you're angry because you haven't used your voice over here. So, so now
Yeah.
you're angry and it's coming out in not a good way. That's never happened to me.
Yeah. But that's so well said, right? Because it's really, the Venus cycle is helping us step into our authentic expression, right? Who are we in our grounded, anchored, centered place? And we're not at either extreme, right? Speaking of the pendulum swing, we're not. We're in a more centered, balanced place where it's okay for me to speak my truth, and then I don't need to force, my speech on others as well. So well said. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because sometimes it's all about timing.
Yes,
Knowing when to
exactly.
say something and when to like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be talking about that right now.
Right.
Because it's like you can, and I have done this where I've maybe said something and it didn't land well, and if it wasn't the right time, maybe it would have landed better at another time. So how do we determine, how do we become more aware of that too, and saying it in a way that people can hear it.
Yeah. And I think Venus being in Taurus is a great guide for us during this gate, right? Because it's like, wait, how does it feel in my body? How do I feel in my body? Keep landing in my body. And how do I keep connecting to myself and my truth and my heart and what is authentically me? Because we can be in our heads and kind of get disconnected from that place. And then we don't know. But the body, like one of my friends and mentors, Nancy Levin, says, the body is the barometer of your truth, right? Your body's going to know the truth before your mind starts to translate it in that place. So I appreciate that.
Love that. So good. Yeah, that we pay attention to how it feels within us. And also, I think because Taurus might be more willing to be with it before it has, like Aries might just blurt it out.
Yes.
I have Venus in Aries, so I might have just blurted things out. But Taurus would be like, maybe we can just be with this a little bit and see, and we don't have to say something right away. But if we think about it, if we say, okay, so is my perception of this true? Is it kind? Is necessary? Is it important for me to say? Think of, taking the time to process through that before necessarily having to say something or express something. It's so important. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that wraps us up for this Venus Fridays. Is there anything else you want to add?
I think we're good. Thank you. Love doing this with you, of course.
Me too. Likewise. Thank you all for being here with us, and comment, share, ask us questions, subscribe, anything, because we are
Check
here.
out the show notes because there'll be additional links there from both me and Sheridan. So yeah.
Exactly. All right. Blessings.
Bye, everyone.